it's not about me. It's not about you. It's not about you. It's about us.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
And so it's not, if people can get out of the me, this is how it affected me, or this is how, look what I did, or whatever. It's not about you. Mm-hmm. It's just not.
Yeah.
It's about us,
Yeah.
and making this existence a better place by being the best human you can be. And the only way that I can become the best version of myself is by helping the two of you become the best version of yourselves. And that will spread. And then the negative criticizing people will by default fall off.
Yeah.
They'll fall off. And now you've got this group of powerful men who are humble.
Yeah.
But still, gentle is strong.
Yeah.
Right.
Strong isn't strong.
Yeah.
But gentle is strong. Mm-hmm. Gentle with your kids, gentle with your wife, gentle is strong.
Yeah.
Vulnerability, man. I'll ask you two. I know this is going the other way, but why is it so hard for men to be vulnerable? Why do you think it's so hard in your lives? In your lives,
I think I would say it's people worrying about what other people are going to think about them more than anything. I think that's why men are scared to be vulnerable. I think pride, it comes back to pride. I've been there in the past. It was like the stronger I am and the tougher I am physically, the more angry I could be, the more dominant I could be, the more aggressive I could be, the less the things I'm scared of will actually show up. But it's the exact opposite. And I think that comes from really caring about what other people think. But when I stopped caring about what other people think and I started caring about more of my actions and how they impacted others around me that I cared about, then I realized then it's about serving other people, right? I was just telling Jefferson this yesterday. I believe fulfillment in our lives, fulfillment and happiness are two different things. You can be happy and not fulfilled, right? You can have joy in your life, but not feel like you're doing something fulfilling. And I think fulfillment in our lives comes from serving other people. And that might be being the best version of ourselves. It might be physically serving somebody else. It might be going out and, some people get that through feeding the homeless or whatever it may be. Other people might be speaking on stage and serving other people through an inspiring story and having a good attitude. But yeah, I think pride and arrogance are one and the same, and that is thinking that we can solve it all ourselves. But I think it happens because we're so worried about the perspective of other people. Once we can get rid of that, I guess that perception that other people's opinions of us really matter, which they don't. The only thing that shapes those things are our character and our actions. And then we can start having good relationships,
Because those opinions that have been formed is from their experience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so they view, maybe they view you guys as super successful or me as, and they're going to hold that against it. Whereas, Tony Robbins, in my opinion, is super successful, has affected hundreds of millions of people. That's success. In my opinion, success is not having $3 million in the bank. That's not success. Mm-hmm. There's so many people that I know and work with who have a lot of money and are just not happy.
Yeah.
They're not happy people. And then I know people who are dead freaking broke. They don't have two nickels to rub together, and they are out running and jumping and laughing with their kids, not knowing how they're going to pay the gas bill, but they're present. And
yeah, I think that I've always said, I believe, especially in this country, if you can have it all, you should have it all. And that's what, your shirt says inspire. I think that's what inspiring others is not letting someone off the hook because of one thing or another, but inspiring them to want to make changes to make their life better. That, again, they can be happy. You can be happy. But to live a fulfilling life means you inspire others.
Yes.
And if you're inspiring others, then you're going to have to go through some hard things. You were talking about your struggles through addiction, and something had disappeared for those 8 months.
Yeah.
And really, most people don't understand it. It is a chemical reaction in our bodies called dopamine and serotonin that have disappeared, right? Because you're getting that through drugs, and then when they're gone, you just can't find anywhere to get it. And so when you were talking about how long does it take, I think it takes as long as it takes for you to balance out those hormones, and the only way they're ever going to be balanced out is to reduce stress and increase hope.
Yep.
And then start doing things that make those things come back in our lives, which is a lot of times serving other people, is where that comes from in my mind.
I think so. What do you got?
So your question is, why aren't we more vulnerable?
Yep.
That was the question. So good answer, by the way. God, there's so many different thoughts I've got going on. What a great podcast this has been. First of all, again, you just talked about inspire and inspiration, right? Maybe I'm different than others in this way, but when I see somebody who has the perfect life or gives the impression they've got the perfect life and they never screw up and they're the most fit and their family's just perfect. They got the perfect marriage and they got the perfect kids and they live in the perfect neighborhood and everything's great.
You mean when you're scrolling through Instagram?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah. That doesn't inspire me.
No,
right?
It's almost defeating, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So as you exactly. So it's the opposite of inspiration for me, and I think it is for most people, right? And I think that, like you said it, so often, a lot of times when we're younger, when I was younger, a younger leader in business, and I'm still growing out of it. I mean, I think this is a lifelong process. But when I was a younger leader in business, I was so concerned about what are my people and my business going to think of me if this part of my life isn't perfect, right? Mm-hmm. And I had a lot of people follow me. I had a lot of people follow, but how much better would I have been if I would have allowed them into those parts of my life? And I'm not saying you also don't want to be negative. You don't want to be sharing all your problems.
Right,
That's not what I'm talking about. But being real and honest, I think, in authenticity is inspiration. It's inspirational. And to see, even when you were 30 years old and you were this tough guy and you're driving on your way to Cedar City, there were things in your life that if you would have probably been more open about with those around you, they already thought you were a stud, but how much more would they have maybe thought you were a stud if they knew, oh, he's struggling with this in his marriage or whatever, I don't know. But And I think if I would have been more that way, Jeff, I think you would agree when we were younger in our business, if we would have been more, I guess, I don't know if real is the right word.
I think you said it, authentic. I think I've always had a problem with the word vulnerable because it's like people imagine these guys crying. I don't think you have to sit in a circle and talk about your problems and cry.
You don't have to
become better.
A boob, right? But yeah.
But I do think you should be authentic. You should be yourself so that other people can be inspired by watching you become a better version of yourself. I always said Martin Luther King said, I have a dream. He didn't say, let me tell you what my dream is, and you should have one too. He said, I have one, and here's what it is. And it inspires people today from his example, chasing his dream. But not everybody has the same dream as him, but yet his purpose still motivates people today and inspires people today to do better, but they're not even going for his dream. His dream and watching him chase his dream and talk about having one inspires other people to go chase their dream and do something special with their lives. And I think that's the difference between authentic and vulnerable. A lot of people, maybe they're all one and the same, but that's kind of how I perceive being authentic. Just being real. Like, hey, look, we screw up. And it's okay to mess up. What's not okay is to sit and wallow in it. Mm-hmm. It's okay to become addicted. What's not okay is to accept it.
Or act like we don't mess up.
Yes.
I'm perfect. That's just not right. I think, we're studying Paul right now in the New Testament at church right now and talking about the armor of God, right? And it's interesting because you got the breastplate of righteousness and the shield of faith, and you got all that, your feet shod with, I can't remember all the exact things, but the sword of the Spirit, right? That's the sword is the weapon, but the weapon is the Spirit. And then what are the fruits of the Spirit? Meekness, temperance, patience. It's those words that sometimes meek doesn't sound very strong, but if you think being meek is weak, try being meek for a week, right?
Yeah.
And that, like you just said it, humility is strength, and it's that Tony Dungy book, Quiet Strength, right? Yeah. And there is something about that, when we become I think we can become like Jesus Christ. We can become like God. That's our whole purpose of being here, is to learn to be like them. And if we can become more like them, we don't have to be loud. We don't have to be. We'll be powerful because of the very way that we are. You coming in here today and speaking and just sharing your story is powerful. Yeah. It's not loud, but it's powerful, and I think it's awesome.
Yeah. It's also interesting if you talk about Paul. I mean, arguably Paul is one of, you talk about
he was
challenge.
A mess up. Yeah. he was a little bit of a mess.
One of the disciples, a mess up, but he was one of the most challenged
Paul.
men in the scriptures. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because he was destroying the saints. He was not a good guy. And,
I had no idea.
Yeah. So you think about that because, God, I think sometimes people criticize, well, how come this person's a leader in the church here or there or whatever when they've done this or that? It's like, well, God doesn't have anybody else to call but imperfect people.
Right.
Imagine how frustrated he is. He's got to pick somebody, right? And I think it's, if we're willing to serve and we're willing to put our heart out and do our best, that's what God's looking for. He's looking for those that are willing, not necessarily those who are perfect. And for those that are out there that are listening, you think, man, I'm not there yet. I'm not perfect enough, or I'm not worthy enough to serve. No. Are you willing? If you're willing, let's go.
He wants your heart, not your treasures, right? He doesn't need it. He doesn't need anything. He already has everything you could possibly give. He just wants your heart. That's it. And the way we give our hearts is through whatever our heart's attached to.
Are you willing to serve? There it is. It's not about you. It's about us.
Yeah.